Hello world, welcome to another episode of the Survivor series, a week-by-week recap and analysis of Survivor for new viewers of the show and returning viewers alike. This week they doubled our pleasure and doubled our fun by giving us a double episode. Let's just get right into the recap because this show is twice as long and I don't want this episode to be twice as long. Rick showed up at Edge of Extinction. He walked right into the same den of bitterness that Chris walked into last week, which makes sense given how much a part he was of orchestrating the departure of everyone on that island. We went straight to the first of two reward challenges that we were going to see this week, and our original Manu tribe, the Lesu tribe, continued their losing streak, but not without War Dog first dropping Lauren and David on their faces.
She's got it! Damn it, War Dog!
I do not understand dropping David. He looks like he weighs the equivalent of 2 straws. Back at camp, Victoria begins to convince Aubrey that they're working out a girls' alliance, and Aubrey just falls for it hook, line, and sinker. Meanwhile, over at Kama, Joe's starting to change a couple of minds by showing that despite being a challenge beast, he's also a great provider around camp. Looks like it's working. The person who was most intent on getting him out, Ron, has started to change his mind.
I have another consideration. Joe is a workhorse. I mean, he knows everything, and a lot of people on our tribe do not.
Yes!
We're not catching the fish, and we're not getting all the food. We don't know what to do. And so, starting to realize I don't like the thought of camp without Joe.
Over at the Edge of Extinction, the castaways get a puzzle to solve with a map, which leads to one of the show's funniest moments with Keith just immediately leaving the team after there's kind of this verbal agreement that everybody's going to work together.
We're gonna have a pact we go all together. Am I right?
I agree. You guys want to have a rice first?
I mean, we might as well. That's dumb not to.
Thank you for the rice, Reem.
It's good to have a mom on your tribe.
That I'm leaving.
Everybody was like, oh, we're gonna go up there fair and square. I was like, what?
They eventually find two things. I have no idea what the wooden thing is that they find, but there's also a note that says practice. So they're aware that something is starting to change for them over on Edge of Extinction Island. Rick finds something that allows him to give an extra vote to someone at Tribal Council. So he gives it to Aubrey, which will be important later. So then we roll back into our first immunity challenge, and guess what? Original Manu, Lesu, they finally managed to win one. Or at least escape losing one. Which means that the new Manu tribe, which is Kama plus Wendy, are headed to Tribal Council. And guess what? Aubrey gets voted out with an idol and an extra vote in her pocket. Aubrey's on her way to Edge of Extinction. This is the first player not from the original Manu tribe to arrive on the beach with them. We roll into our second reward challenge. Lesu's losing streak continues, but it gives us another comical moment with War Dog's inability to throw. It's like he's never thrown anything.
Higher. Come on, War Dog, you got it. Okay.
Survivor's tough, man.
Like, at no point in his life did anyone ever play catch with him, or actually probably what's more likely is someone did play catch with him and was like, never again. We're starting to see a little bit more of Julia now as Joe's talking to her, trying to let her know that people see her as kind of a physical threat. We're starting to see a little more of her story start to emerge. Also, this is great for Joe, who just saw that his partner had been eliminated from the Manu tribe. So he knew that he needed to start to do the work to avoid the elimination that Aubrey had gotten. Next immunity challenge, we learn that 2 tribes are going to Tribal Council instead of just 1. And of course, Kama manages to win because they've got Joe Amazing and they always win, which means that our original Manu, the Lesu tribe, and new Manu are headed to Tribal. Now this sets up an interesting scenario because we have a 4-4 tie, which means that as long as both of those tribes remain solid, the vote is going to be deadlocked. And that sets us up for a Survivor 101. Survivor 101, going to rocks. When there's a tie vote at Tribal, what happens is you essentially get an extended version of Tribal Council. The participants get a chance to discuss a little bit further, deliberate a little bit more, and then re-vote. But this time they can only vote for the people who received votes originally. When you have 2 solid factions, there's an expectation that neither side will budge. And in a case where neither side budges and the vote remains the same, then everyone must draw a rock from a pool of rocks. And then the one person who gets the discolored rock is eliminated. So what essentially happens is you go from a situation where you're completely safe to a situation where you have a chance at going home, and nobody wants that. But, as David pointed out...
Yeah, and you know, I'm someone who's been to rocks. I go to rocks for my people. And if it has to come to rocks tonight, then that's exactly what's going to happen. Nobody here is afraid to do that. We trust each other.
They vote, they have some discussion, they re-vote. Wendy gets eliminated. Wendy is on the island at edge of extinction, which means that we have 5 Manu and 1 Kama over at the edge of extinction. Questions, thoughts from this episode. First question is, does Aubrey get to hold on to any of her hardware now that she's on edge of extinction? Because technically she hasn't gone home. Is her idol still in play? And also, what about that extra vote? I was honestly glad to see Wendy finally get eliminated. To me, this is a no-brainer, and it should have happened episode after episode after episode. So it's good to see that she's finally out. Joe's finally starting to show some signs of life. He is easily the biggest target. Last week I was frustrated with him. Like, obviously Ron is not your right-hand man. This time he went out and he started to lay the groundwork for building a relationship with someone from Kama besides Aurora. War Dog is this person who imagines himself to be this physically gifted athlete in challenges, and he is by far the worst. It's become hilarious just watching Lauren yell at him during challenges. I also am very glad that we're getting more of the cold-hearted Victoria emerging. Like, this has been a fun thread that they've played out over the past couple of episodes. I think she is easily going to become a fan favorite. So the other thing I've been thinking about is Lauren. What's going on with her? What physical ailment is it that she has that is making the food that she's eating make her sicker? So far, it doesn't seem to have impacted her gameplay that much. Like, she's still able to go to challenges and still be the dominant force for the team. But if everything that she eats makes her sicker, then how much longer can she actually remain present in the game? Idol chatter. So this was a good episode for idols. First off, we saw one idol go out of play. We saw that happen with Aubrey getting eliminated with an idol in her pocket. As I mentioned earlier, is that idol still in play? We don't know. By the traditional rules of the show, that idol should be eliminated. I did appreciate that over on the Lesu tribe, they realized pretty quickly that there should be an idol there and that they went out and looked for it. Wentworth seeing War Dog walk by the idol and grabbing it was a great moment. Also, another great moment was Wentworth revealing to Lauren that she had an idol and Lauren disclosing back to her that she had one too. And so that set up that set up a real bond for those two going forward. They know that they have power in the game. So now it's going to be interesting to see what the circle is that they build. PO3DP. It's got to be Joe. I mean, it doesn't have to be Joe, but I think that there's a compelling case for it to be Joe this week because Joe is finally showing the signs of life that are going to be necessary for him to survive this game. He's played this game as an underdog on a dominant team, which means that if they had lost any of the challenges before this week, he would have been an immediate elimination. But through the gift of his physical skills, they were able to avoid that fate. But as you could see from the promo for the next episode, we're entering the middle game, and he doesn't really have a squad. He's got Aurora, and then hopefully Aubrey's able. If Aubrey's able to work her way back into the game, then that becomes another person for him. But he needed to do the work to establish relationships. And going out and starting to build that bond with Julia was a great first step. In fact, I would say it was a great second step. The best first step was him actually going out and catching fish and just doing the things required to reinforce that he's actually a good person to have around despite his physical gifts. So Joe, you get my PO3DP this week, after being the MO3DP last week. So speaking of MO3DP, who's the MO3DP? MO3DP this week goes to Reem. Reem, you're looking for one of the few good things that exists in the place where you are, and when you find it, you point it out to Keith, who has already shown A, that he's willing to go off and do his own thing despite you having this motherly presence in his life, and B, at the outset of the search for this object, he said no promises, basically. And so when you see the thing in the water, you point it out, and he gets it. And what is it? It's something that he can use against someone.
When the time comes, penalize your biggest threat by assigning these knots to them. Oh, Chris is in trouble.
He became like Smeagol. The funniest thing was that you snapped at Chris when Chris pointed out the thing that we all know, which is that you made a mistake. Just own it. Here's why that's the mistake of the 3-day period. Yeah, you made a mistake. You should have owned it. You didn't. But in the process, you managed to just worsen your relationship with every single person on Edge of Extinction with you. So if you do get back into the game, you don't even have any allies there. So let's wrap this up. The original Manu tribe, Lesu, just continued their losing ways. The most interesting thing to happen this week out of that squad was that it looks like David, Wentworth, and Lauren can become a thing. Wardog may be on the outs in that community. Over on Kama, it doesn't look like everyone is fully aligned on getting Joe out anymore, which was the position that he was in at the beginning of this episode, so he's made solid progress. And then over on the Manu tribe, the Manu tribe is basically the Kama tribe, so they've gotten rid of Wendy, and now they're all friends again. But what we have to look forward to next week is the merge. We are entering the middle game, people. This is no longer a tribal competition. This is an individual competition. As much fun as the merge is and the beginning of this new phase of the game, what's really exciting about next week is that we're finally going to see what this Edge of Extinction is all about, because from the promo we can see that Jeff calls them in, and it looks like there's some kind of showdown about to happen. So probably the most exciting thing to look forward to next week is just learning what's going to happen with these Edge of Extinction castaways. I think the main thing to look for next week is A, let's take a look at Lauren and Wentworth and see what they're able to build. B, can Joe continue to distinguish himself, and can Joe continue to keep himself in the game? And then, what kind of game is Victoria going to play? It's really been interesting to see how quick-witted and decisive she can be in executing her plan. And now we're at the part of the game where having an individual plan will get you very far. The question is, does she have the relationships to allow her to make it through this middle part of the game? And can she become the dominant person from the Kama tribe? Right now it's looking like Ron wants to be that. Victoria's playing the game that Aubrey wants to be playing, and eventually that's going to put her at odds with Ron, and somebody's going to have to come out on top. So that's something else to look forward to. So that's the end of that episode of Survivor, and this is the end of this episode of the Survivor series. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you have thoughts, questions, anything that you want to discuss about this week's episode of Survivor, drop it in the comments. And then, if you haven't subscribed already, but you want to see more of these, hit subscribe. See you next time.